Hi, welcome to my video on the base of an exponential function. Let's look at the base of y equals b to the x. B is the base. Y equals b to the x, and x is belonging to the real numbers. So we're looking at real numbers this time, which means the graph is going to be continuous and not dots like it would be in a sequence. So real numbers, again, any numbers, you can start, you can have negative numbers, you can have positive numbers, zero, fractions, anything, as long as your base has to be certain conditions. And let's go over that. A, B less than 0. What about your base is less than 0? So let's take y, let's say B is negative 2. Which is less than 0. So y equals negative 2 to the x. So let's look at when the base is less than 0. B is negative 2. So let's take x to be 3. Negative 2 cubed is negative 2, negative 2, negative 2 is negative 8. Negative 2 squared, negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. X is 1, negative 2 to the 1 is negative 2. 0, negative 2 to the 0 is 1. Any number to the 0 power is 1 except 0. 0, again, 0 to the 0 power is not defined. What about negative 2 to the negative 1? So that'll give you a negative 1/2. This is 1 over. So let's plot that. When x is 3, y is negative 8. So there's 3. Let's pick negative 8 to be right there. X is 2, y is 4. X is 2, y is 4. Up there. When x is 1, y is negative 2. Right there. When x is 0, y is 1, which is right there. When x is negative 1, y is negative 1/2, which is right there. So notice, because you have a negative base to an odd number is going to give you a negative value for y. And a negative base to an even power is going to give you a positive. So notice the graph is jumping from negative numbers and positive numbers. So the graph is not consistent. So, in a sense, we cannot have the base less than 0 for any negative number. You can't put the negative number in for the base. Okay, let's look at when the base is equal to 0. That means we have y equals 0 to the x. So again, let's take x to be 3. 0 cubed is 0. 2, 0 squared is a 0. 1, 0 to the 1 is a 0. 0 to the 0 is not defined. Or we could say it's undefined. Check with your calculator. We discussed this before. It's not defined. 0 to the negative 1 is 0. So what happens is that you got 3 is a 0. 2 is a 0. That means 1 is a 0. 0 is not defined. It's a hollow dot there. And negative 1 is a 0. So if we take any number, if you take 2.5, 0 to 2.5, so that means really you get all the numbers on the x-axis except 0. But again, that's not representing the exponential function, because this is a horizontal line being the x-axis, except you can't have the 0. So we can't have the base to be 0. Let's continue. What about when b is equal to 1? So we have the equation y equals b to the x. So y equals 1 to the x. So what about we have 3? X is 3. 1 cubed is 1. What about 2? 1 squared is 1. What about 1? 1 to the 1 is 1. 1 to the 0 is 1. Negative 1. 1 to the negative 1 is 1. Negative 1 to the 1 power is negative 1. So notice that when the base is 1, we have x is 3, we have a 1. When x is 2, we have a 1. When x is 1, we have a 1. X is 0, 1. X is negative 1, 1. So notice we have, even though these are some of them, but really, when we have the base is 1, we have what we call the horizontal line. We have the horizontal line y equals 1. So when the base is 1, we have a horizontal line y equals 1. And I'll write that down. Is a horizontal line y equals 1. So it's not representing an exponential function. An exponential function, as you're going to see, is represented by a curve, exponential. So remember when we did the graph of the sequence, and we had the dots, and the dots went up in a curve, or they came down and looped. They were a curve. So this is not a curve. If the graph of y equals b to the x is an exponential function, the values of b cannot be less than 0. That means they cannot be negative. They can't be, the value of b can't be 0. And the value of b cannot be 1. So b cannot be negative, can't be 0, and can't be 1. Okay? The domain of y equals b to the x, the domain are the x values belong to the reals. You can put any value of x belong to real numbers into any exponential equation. So the domain is always XER, always real numbers, never changes for this sort of equation. Okay, to conclude, to be an exponential function, the base of y equals b to the x can be, the base got to be greater than 0, and b got to be greater than 0, and it was greater than 0, but you cannot have a 1. So when you say greater than 0, what does it mean? It means it's not negative and it's not 0. So by making this statement, you're eliminating the negatives and you're eliminating 0. But when you say b is greater than 0, you got to be careful, because 1 is in that set. So if b is greater than 0 and you say 1, but we can't have 1. So your base b of an exponential function, I repeat, the base b for base, the base of an exponential function is what? B is greater than 0 and b is not equal to 1. Extremely important to know what the base of an exponential function is. B got to be greater than 0, not equal to 0, and it can't be 1. So there it is for an exponential function. Memorize it, know it, because when you cannot have a negative, you cannot have 0, and you cannot have 1. So the base of an exponential function is greater than 0 and not 1. So that explains what the base of an exponential function is. So memorize it. Very important. And if you like my video, click the like button. If you want to subscribe to my channel, go ahead. Visit my math website, www.mathfullyexplained.com, to find more information about me, my videos, and the content. That's the content on my YouTube channel called Math Fully Explained. Thank you for viewing my video. Hope the video was of some help to you. Bye-bye.